Okay, so who we have here today, Chief Judge Mary Triggiano is a graduate of UW-Madison Law School and has been a Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge since August 1st, 2004. She was first assigned to Children's Division from August 2004 to August 2009. She was next assigned to the Domestic Violence Court, handling adult misdemeanor and felony domestic abuse and child abuse cases. From August 2013 to August 2017, she was again assigned to the Children's Court Division, where she led the Family Drug Treatment Court and created the first of its kind in Wisconsin Healthy Infant Court. From August 2017 to February 2020, she was assigned to the Civil Division. She was a Deputy Chief Judge for Chief Judge Maxine White for over 4 years. She is currently the Chief Judge, District 1, Milwaukee County. She is here today with 2 graduates of the Family Drug Treatment Court, Robyn Ellis and Jonisha. I want to make sure I say that last name, Neita. I am excited to have them all here today to share with us their journey with the drug treatment court process and their stories as a result of this connection. Please help me welcome Judge Triggiano, Robyn, and Jonisha.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate the introduction. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you okay.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you, MC3, all the change agents. Thank you, Amy, for inviting us here. And I also want to thank both Jonisha and Robyn for being here with me. We've actually spoken together before at different events, and I'm just grateful that they agreed to be part of this conversation with you here today. We're going to be really informal about how we present. That's what we do. So we encourage questions if you have any for us. We will answer them if we can, depending on what the questions are. But know that you will be hearing from 2 very remarkable women, Jonisha and Robyn, and their amazing stories, who I met in Family Drug Treatment Court, and who have flourished in their new careers, and they'll talk a little bit about that too. Jonisha at WellPoint Care Network, previously known as St. A, previously known as St. Emilian's Lakeside, for those who don't quite know, and then Robyn at Maida House. And I'm just so grateful that they agreed to be here today. So I'm going to start a little bit about my journey from I would like to say my 9 of my 18 career years at Children's Court, because that assignment probably left the biggest impression on me and sort of changed the course of my career and actually made me a better judge. And then certainly talk a little bit about Family Drug Treatment Court, Healthy Infant Court, and then turn it over to Robyn first, I believe, and then Jonisha second, to have their story sort of meld with mine on an ongoing basis. So I think many of you read the title of our presentation here today, A Story of Perseverance and Hope. And if we would do one of those things that Amy just did in the chat box, and we don't have to do it, but I don't think that if we would say something like a question like, describe what you believe to be true about court, and judicial, the system, and the criminal justice system, child welfare system, you probably wouldn't necessarily use the words perseverance and hope. You probably wouldn't use the words collaborative, therapeutic, problem solving, transformative, career defining. You probably wouldn't use any of those words that we use to describe the title of our presentation, nor the little description here. But for the 3 of us, I think it would be true. Those descriptions would be true. And maybe after we're done talking to you here today, if you're ever asked that question, you might use those words in some conversations you have in remembrance of what we've talked about here. And I think that's sort of our hope as well. So Amy described my years of service as a judge on the bench, and I'm going to get into a little bit more the 9 years I spent at Children's Court, because I had said to you, and I'll continue to say, they're probably the most career-defining and transformative for me. So in 2004, I was appointed by the then Governor Doyle to become a judge for a retiring judge. And I was assigned by the then chief judge to Children's Court. And most new judges either get assigned to Children's Court or our misdemeanor branch to sort of cut their teeth and learn the ropes. At that time, I was doing juvenile delinquency cases, so that's kids committing crimes, child welfare cases, some termination of parental rights, guardianships, and a smattering of other things. And about the second year I was on the bench, I had a young individual who was charged with possession of marijuana and retail theft. And you know, he was one of our kids in the community, our youth, struggling with a variety of things: his identity, what he wanted to do in life, and he was about 14 years old. And so I put him on probation, and then I had some probation reviews over a period of time. And throughout that time period, he was doing well on probation, didn't commit any more crimes, no more retail theft. I believe he was probably sober and not using. And then he got back into school and ended up with a very nice girlfriend who every once in a while he brought to court. He also had a job. Everything we wanted to hope for in a kid on our calendar, you know, so that he wouldn't be back in on any new charges. So he's doing quite well in my estimation. Prior to the final probation review, I learned that he had been involved in a pretty significant and brutal homicide. He had killed somebody. And I was startled. I think everyone was shocked, because none of what we saw would lead us to believe he had the capability of doing something like that. As the story unraveled, we came to find out that he had killed an older gentleman who he would go to his home to get money so that he could go buy marijuana so that he could smoke it. What he told us is that he would dance naked in front of this guy, and at one point this older gentleman wanted to have sex with him, and he did not want that. He was like adamantly opposed to it. He didn't want to do it, and so the argument goes he was triggered by the advances of this gentleman, and so he killed him. Lots of court hearings, lots of trying to figure out what to do with this individual. I'm not going to get into sort of the legal things that you had to deal with as a juvenile court judge, where a young individual is charged with a crime such as this. But what I came to find out is that, and he wasn't on my calendar during that time frame because I was new to Children's Court, but a prior judge had him, and he was in the child welfare system for several years. And as many of you probably know, the Adverse Childhood Experience study and the scoring related to that, he probably scored an 8, looking back at his history on that ACE score, which meant that he was physically, mentally, and emotionally abused as a young child. His father was incarcerated. His mother was the victim of domestic violence, which he witnessed. You know, all of those 10 indicators on the ACE study scoring, he had, like I said, probably 7 to 8 of those. And so for me, besides that legal piece, I was very intrigued about the extreme trauma he withstood as a child and how that potentially impacted his behavior, his survival instincts, what had occurred in this gentleman's home. And again, not excusing significantly horrifying behavior in terms of what happened there. But for me, it was some way to sort of explain in my head what happened to this child and how it impacted him and his behavior and his life going forward. That was the start of that career-defining moment for me, because what I did was I indulged myself in everything I could read and understand about the adverse childhood experience study and the impact of trauma on children and how they react to some of that trauma going forward, and how as adults they carry that trauma inside their bodies. And what I started to do was learn, but I also started educating others. And frankly, I'm still learning about the impact of trauma on children and adults, and how it impacts things that we do or don't do right in the justice system. About in 2007, I had the opportunity to work with some people at Children's Hospital who actually brought in one of the authors and the studiers of the adverse childhood experience study, which was Dr. Felitti. And I was on a panel discussion with him and other medical professionals, and we were in a room full of other medical professionals. I was probably one of a handful of lawyers at that time, or a judge in terms of my what I was doing. And what I did was I took a group of cases from Children's Court and reviewed their history. And what I found was what I figured I would find, is that women and men involved in CHIPS, child welfare cases, and TPR, termination of parental rights cases, and kids in child welfare cases and delinquency cases, all of them had a pretty significant history of trauma. And so I started to learn more, and I started to teach. I met Tim Grove from now WellPoint. Somebody hooked us together because Tim was also trying to bring trauma-informed care and the study of trauma to people far and wide. And so I pulled him in, and we now, since about 2009, in the justice system, probably have trained well over 4,000, 5,000 individuals, DAs, public defenders, lawyers, judges, anybody that we could have us listen to on trauma-informed care, the impact of childhood trauma on adult health and well-being and behavior. Over the last 2 years, it's sort of waned because of some things that have been happening with this thing called COVID. But it was important for me to start imparting my knowledge on those in the justice system so that we could understand who was in front of us and their stories. And, if we couldn't do anything different in terms of, the crime that was committed, but we could treat people with more dignity and respect and understand them and understand victim stories as well. So that was the beginning of my first rotation at Children's Court, which was about 5 years. And I rotated into the Domestic Violence Court, brought my understanding there of this information. I rotated back into Children's Court, and I started to work with the Family Drug Treatment Court. It had already been established. It was still sort of trying to get its sea legs and become an established treatment court. And for those of you who don't know about treatment court or problem-solving courts, Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin has treatment courts, and it's actually a national thing. We have our adult drug treatment court downtown Milwaukee that serves individuals who are part of their crime charge has to do with substance use disorders and mental health concerns. We have our adult drug treatment court, our veterans treatment court, our pilot mental health treatment court, which we're now trying to expand. And then Children's Court had at that time a family drug treatment court. And so I'm more familiar with that as a problem-solving court because I worked in that court for 4 years. And I was able to sort of bring not only my understanding of substance use disorders and mental illness, but also trauma-informed care. And what problem-solving courts are is a lead judge works with a team of individuals, and that team includes the DAs, any defense attorney or private bar attorney, ongoing case managers from either WellPoint or Children's Hospital. Sometimes the Department of Corrections is involved, mental health treatment providers, substance use treatment providers. I know I'm going to miss a whole probably group of people, but the other part of this team is the parents. And what we are able to learn from parents in those situations, frankly, for me, has made me a better judge and a better human being to try to understand more about how people who experience significant trauma in their lives and also end up with substance use disorders or mental illness, actually, when you work with them as a team and try to help them along, and not everybody, but you know, it's actually formidable in their recovery, right? Working together. And so that therapeutic approach to how we do things in the court system has meant better outcomes for families, better treatment options, better outcomes for children, and a whole host of other really, really good outcomes. If you really stick to what makes treatment courts work. And we know that because we read the literature and we try to emulate and copy others across the country who've been doing this. And now people are starting to emulate and copy what we do in Milwaukee. So that was the Family Drug Treatment Court. And I want to make sure I leave lots of time for these two. But one thing in the Family Drug Treatment Court that we started to understand, as well as combining our trauma-informed care experiences, that our babies are significantly vulnerable. And what judges, what I thought, and what people in the system thought was that, hey, if you take a baby away from a parent who might be using substances and neglecting their children or abusing their child for whatever reason, then all you got to do is put them with somebody else and then you're done, right? And what we learned and what we continue to learn is that babies, infants have mental health issues as well. And there's ways to tell that, right? And then there's ways to figure out how to work with the parent better to get the parent to understand the needs of their infant and vice versa. And so we brought in, as we always do, other people to teach us how to understand these things so that we can incorporate them in the work that we do as a team to make things better for babies and parents who desperately love their children but really need the support and help to make that relationship work. And so we brought in infant mental health specialists. We brought in a variety of other people to help us work with families, and foster parents were also part of that paradigm too, because we needed a safe place, but we also needed the foster parent to work with the biological parent to make sure that that child needs were met, and that we could build a really sturdy foundation for those babies so that they didn't end up deeper in the system, either the child welfare system, the juvenile justice system, or the adult system. And our court coordinators are still working on that, but I think we've had really, really great outcomes with our Family Drug Treatment Court and our Healthy Infant Court. I do have to say, Robyn was amazing in Family Drug Treatment Court, and Jonisha was in Family Drug Treatment Court as well, but she also was our first mom with her baby in Healthy Infant Court, and did wonderful there, both of them. And it wasn't because of me, it wasn't because of the one individual, it was because we worked together as a team and they were part of that team. I miss Family Drug Treatment Court. I miss Healthy Infant Court. I'm sure they do as well, but they've gone on to bigger and better things, helping others as they always have done. And I'm proud and grateful to be with them here today. And so without much further ado, I'm going to turn it over. I think Robyn is going to speak first, and then Jonisha is going to jump in. But Robyn, if you would mind talking about your story and where you are now today as well, that would be fabulous.
Of course, thanks Judge T and Amy for allowing me to speak on my perseverance and hope today. I'm really grateful to be here and speaking in this space, especially about trauma. It's, as Judge Triggiano mentioned, that we've presented quite a few times together in over the past 9 years that I've known you. And I don't think that we've ever gotten to the point of this, like speaking specifically about trauma. And so I thought that was really eye-opening for me. And the fact that you share so openly like you do, it helps me come forward and be able to share my story too. I grew up in an alcoholic home, and before I even realized what trauma was, it was exposed to me, and in many ways that I'm still uncovering today. My parents were both alcoholics and addicts. They were very toxic. There was a lot of physical, mental, verbal abuse in the home. And I think that just, you know, as I've uncovered my own trauma, realizing that my very first experiences and memories were that of fear, that of trying to figure out how I was going to stay safe. And that was at a very young age, 3, 4, and 5. So substance use plays a very big role, obviously, in my life. Growing up around the alcoholic parents that I had, it was their solution. It was what they showed me. It's how they coped. I first took a drink when I was 11, and that, of course, just turned into more things. I was addicted to Adderall when I was 15. I got pregnant when I was 18. And so as I moved through my life, it was just surviving. And I didn't realize what that was or why it was just this constant feeling of, I just have to make it through. I just have to figure out how I'm going to, get bills paid, make sure that mom's okay, make sure that I get to school, make sure I get to work as a teenager. And so those things were a struggle for me. And drugs for me was an escape. It's not something I can remember. It's not something I ever wanted to do, because looking at my parents, I didn't want to be like them. But because it was so openly used, it was available, it was exactly what I turned to. When I gave birth to my daughter, I was in a very low place. I didn't have a lot of support around, not a lot of healthy support. My grandma was a big enabler for my family. My mom was an alcoholic. My dad wasn't present. The rest of my siblings were simply just surviving. So as a brand new mom at 19, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't have the basic life skills to take care of myself, let alone an infant. 3 weeks after my daughter was born, my mother passed away unexpectedly. Having a rough relationship with my mom brought me to a place where I didn't know where I stood as a mom myself, as a daughter, to now no longer a mother here on earth. And so my addiction got worse quickly. I never really knew how to face reality. And so when that happened, I really didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. And I never asked for help. That was something we didn't do in my family. So, I moved through my story pretty quickly, but, as growing up in an alcoholic home where my mom kind of just shoved everything under the rug, it was like, you don't ask for help. You don't let the outside world know what's going on. You just keep moving and you figure it out. A year and a half after my mom died, my dad died. I was 20. I had a 1.5-year-old. I remember feeling really lost. But I also remember feeling like I don't want to turn out like them. I don't want to do what they've done. I don't want to end up like them. And again, that's not easy when you don't have any other solution and you don't know how to ask for help, and the people around you and your family don't have the options or the support to help you any further than what we've always seen. You know, and so from there, my addiction got way worse. Things got way darker. In a total of a year and a half, I got into 7 car accidents. I totaled 3 cars. I was behind the wheel, not awake, with my 3-year-old baby in the back seat. And that was the first time I had CPS involvement. And that is not when I got sober. That's not when I realized how bad things were. I figured that, you know, I could make it look really good. I could, you know, show them I got it together. That's all they wanted to see was, you know, like the CPS came in for 6 months. They just checked up. They made sure everything was okay. And so, you know, again, things just got worse from there. Finally, my family, thankfully, my family realized that I was headed down a path that there may be no return from. My sister called CPS again in the end of 2012. And 2 days after my daughter's 4th birthday, she was taken from my care. And, you know, in that moment, feeling like that was the only thing I really had to hold on to was being a mom, even though I didn't really know or do it as best as I could. It was like everything was ripped out from underneath me. And so, you know, at that point, it's like, okay, you guys want to see that I can get sober? You want to see that I can be a mom? I can do that. You know, I can pretend to do that, because I didn't really know how to do that. And thankfully, family drug treatment courts introduced themselves. I remember Rebecca, probably like within the week that my daughter was taken from me, had reached out. And it's funny because I've done a lot of interviews since then, and people always say, like, what was it like? How was it presented to you? And I'll say, I have no idea. I was high, you know, and this is the honest to God truth. I was still just trying to make it through. But I do remember Rebecca, and I do remember hearing about a program, and I was desperate, you know, so at that point I will take whatever help you guys are willing to offer, not saying I'm going to do it your way, but I will step into this position and do my best. And there was a team that came around. You know, it was the case manager and my lawyer and the Family Drug Treatment Court team, which I had to, you know, go to court every Friday and see these people. They got me into a residential program. And, you know, in that moment, I had the mindset that I just had to get through this. I just had to get through this program, show them I could do it, and then they would be gone. And, you know, in working in the field today, I hear that a lot. That is the mentality, is we just have to get through so I can prove to them, the people who are in my life, that I don't need them in my life, and then I'll be okay. Thankfully, I fell face first into that, you know, mentality, and realized that wasn't going to work that way. And so I remember I was listening to you talk, Judge T. I remember when you first came into the courtroom and I saw you, because Judge Christensen was the judge when I first was there. And when you came in and they brought you in, and I thought, oh man, this one's going to be tough. I just saw you and I was like, I got like this Judge Judy vibe, and I was like, oh, this is going to be rough. And I realized when you started talking, you had a very slow, you had a slow tone. You were listening, you were present, you were here for us. And in that moment, it was like I just could breathe a little lighter. I felt like a little weight was lifted. I felt like there was not judgment. I felt like there was, you were coming in to work with the team, not to just sit behind the podium with your judge coat on. And so that it had become, you know, even though I wasn't fully ready yet, it had become this team that had wrapped around me and helped me to realize the things that I needed, and the support and the services that I needed. It's interesting now because, you know, working in the field, I come across my lawyer and my case manager and the people that I worked with, and they'll say very outright, when you first came in, Robyn, you would come in so high, you would be sleeping in the courtroom. And I just thinking about that, and I'll, you know, and they know because I've told my story so many times and they've heard me say those things. It helps to take away the shame. It helps to realize that it wasn't like, oh, I walked in, I got this, and that was it. It took some time, you know, and so it's that unraveling of all the trauma and learning how to trust people and come into this space, which may be really scary. Walking into a courtroom, especially, you know, after having, you know, had police contact and had, you know, CPS take my kid, it's building this trust. You know, and then there was moments that were difficult around other things, not just my substance use, but my relationships. And I remember very clearly, Judge Triggiano, you would ask the tough questions, but you always had that soft tone. It was this, let me understand what's going on and bring you into this understanding with me. And you asked me about a guy, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. And this was tough for me because it wasn't something that I thought, I didn't realize how it was affecting my substance use, my relationship with my family, and most importantly, the relationship I wanted to have with my child. And you asked me, and I did it my way. And I said, you know, I probably lied a little bit. I tried to cover it up and act like it was fine. And then I had him on an just a little bit, just a little bit. I had him on an unsupervised visit. And thankfully, you know, my family found out and they held me accountable. And at that time I had already relapsed. I wasn't doing great. And so that was another piece of my puzzle that I needed to look at, was the relationships, the people that I was bringing into mine and my daughter's life, and what that was, you know, how that was affecting all of us. And so it's just that accountability piece, you know, and helping me to realize it's not about the shame. You know, in the beginning, when I used to come into court high, it wasn't about the shame. It was, are you okay? What's going on? How can we help you? What else do you need? And those questions started to get me to realize that these are things that I could be asking myself as well. And I didn't even know how to do that. So there was, you know, many facets of learning in family drug treatment court. And so I went into treatment again. I went into another residential treatment, and I remember I reached out to my case manager, and I remember being really ready and saying, hey, I need to get back there. And so for me, even just saying that, realizing that I had gained a little more trust because I was willing to admit that piece to her, instead of saying, like, someone else saying, hey, you need to get in here. I had gone to her. And so, you know, of course, my team helped me get into Neita House, and I was in Neita House residential for 6 months. You know, and that coupled with drug court was a huge game changer for me. And it was the accountability, the people that I needed in my life to support me, to show me how to live, to show me, you know, how to be a woman, not just a mom, not just a sister, but a woman in society, a person, you know, and that was huge for me. I had to really step it back a few levels. And I remember just thinking, like, okay, I do want to be a mom, but I also need to learn how to take care of myself. Because if I don't do this for me, I'm going to fall on my face again. I'm going to miss something. And there's of course many things to still uncover as I go through life, but that was huge. In 2014, I got Gailey back, my daughter. She came home March 2014. And I remember how tough that was. That was really, really tough. You know, being a new mom, truly, you know, for the first 4 years, I was kind of not present, kind of not there. And so, you know, realizing how to ask for help. Family drug treatment court taught me how to do that. Like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say that maybe you're struggling and you need something. You need somebody to talk to. You need help. You need respite. And so I was able to do those things, and it wasn't shameful. It wasn't like, oh, you can't do it. It's, oh, okay, you just need help. You need a little time right now. And so giving myself that space and learning about who I was and how to be a mom, that was huge. And, you know, just still learning. I've learned so much in the past 8 years. And I work a program of recovery outside of these programs, and I did ever since then, which was great. It was huge for me. And it was helpful in the sense that in 2015, I thought I could drink like normal people, and I had forgotten that, drugs and alcohol are all substances. And I remember, for some reason, Rebecca Foley and I were talking, and I told her I had drank, and I told her that, Gailey was home with me at this point, and I was living on my own, and I was working, but I knew that I couldn't drink. And so it was a huge step for me. And she said, hey, do you want to come in to Family Drug Treatment Court and talk about your experience? And I thought, oh, that's big, to be in front of a lot of people who I don't know any of the participants at that point, and be vulnerable. And I said, of course I will. I would love to share that part of my story, because maybe it'll help shed some light for somebody else, that may go through that, or maybe they won't go through it because they hear what I said. And, walking into the courtroom and just feeling that same acceptance and support that I had felt when I came in previously, and just being open and honest, and it's like, for me, it was like I had thought of it like a mistake, like it was something I shouldn't have done. And over the years, I realized how very pertinent part of my story it became, because for me at that time, I was 25 years old. I was young. And so living in Milwaukee, or just living anywhere, I guess, thinking that, at 25, like maybe I can drink. As an addict, for me, it's a little more serious than that, and so I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to share that. And I got to share that with my daughter too. I remember I took her to the AA meeting that I had gone to, and stood up and told my AA group as well. And it was having that moment of honesty and vulnerability with my child, present. And so, there's a lot that has happened since then, a lot of living, a lot of healing, a lot of growing, that I continue to do. I have a 13-year-old now. It's crazy to say that. I've traveled with Family Drug Treatment Court to California, to Door County with Judge T. We've gone a lot of different places, and I'm always so fulfilled when I do those things. And one thing I always share is that Family Drug Treatment Court became the family that I never had. And what's so special today is, I still have that. Rebecca Foley just had her baby, and she sent me a picture. And like that for me is like, you guys didn't just see me as a participant. You didn't just see me as a statistic, as another person, another kid in the system. I became a part of your team, of your family. And I get to carry that with me today. And I get emotionally because, you guys, I wouldn't have this life today. I wouldn't. There's no way I would have this life if I had to do it alone. Not one way. So I get to show my daughter today what that looks like. I get to show her what it's like to, persevere and to continue to spread the hope and the joy that we get to have. And even in the tough moments, today, one of the biggest things for me as a mom is that I get to talk about the things. Something my mom never could sit down and do. We didn't talk about feelings. We didn't talk about the hard times. We didn't talk about anything. I get to sit down with her, and I get to truly enjoy her joy, who she is as a person, and watch her grow up, and it's tough. I think about who I was as a 13-year-old, and I knew as she started to grow up that my little girl would be triggered sometimes by who she is and the age she is. And thankfully today, I'm in therapy. I've been in therapy for 10 months now, and I've been doing some pretty heavy work. And, so to see her as a 13-year-old and how different it is, because she gets to be free. She gets to figure out who she is without that burden of stuff that a 13-year-old doesn't need to go through. And that, that makes it also very worth it. And, now I work at Neita House, as was said previously, and I get to give back every single day. I've worked at Neita House almost 5 years now, and it's been just a privilege and an honor. The women that come in, and I get to talk to, and I get to share their experience with them. It's, sometimes I don't think they realize how much more helpful it is for me to just see and to be a part of. Previous to COVID, I was also doing the Family Drug Treatment Court alumni meeting. COVID's kind of thrown a lot of things off, but just being able to come back every Friday and run a support group with the participants there was always helpful. One thing that it will keep me going, I think, for the rest of the time, is that I get to share this. because if I don't, I might forget. And for me, I don't, you know, I don't have the luxury to forget about where I came from. I know I'll continue to move forward. And even saying I've known Judge Triggiano for 9 years, that's blows my mind. I can't even believe it's been 9 years, and there's been a lot, and there's been moments of slowing down and resting and figuring it out, and there's also just realizing that it's just about living. So I'm really grateful that you guys are all here, and I've gotten to share my story, and I'm excited to hear Jonisha's story.
That's a great. Thanks, Robyn. I do think everyone needs to know now who Rebecca Foley is, since you said about 4 times, and I got to get a picture of the baby to Jonisha because I don't think she got one. So look at her. And I think Rebecca's brother is on, so maybe he can text her and say, you better send a picture of the baby to Jonisha. But Rebecca Foley is a formidable, amazing human being who's been the court coordinator for the Family Drug Treatment Court since pretty much its inception. And, you know, she goes way above and beyond helping our participants out and all of the team players to make sure everything works and is done as best we can, because, you know, families are so important to us. So that is our court coordinator. And I'm going to segue to Jonisha at this point.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jonisha Neita. Ooh, it was getting real emotional. I'm a little nervous right now, but here we go. Let's do it. So I want to start off with saying about historical trauma. Of course, in trauma-informed care, but I noticed after doing studies that historical traumas plays a part. It is not only about what happened to you, but what happened to your mother, what happened to the mother before the mother, what happened to that mother, what happened before then. And that installs fear, and it installs feelings inside of that we can't explain. So we wonder why we ended up the way we are. It's possible that it's not even our fault that we are afraid of this, that we do that. But yeah, things do form in the process, and I'm gonna go into that. I had to reform my whole life. Everything about me, I had to reform it. It wasn't right. I didn't know it wasn't right because I wasn't brought up around right. My mother, my father, my stepfather, nothing was right in my life. Domestic violence, drug use, all of it was in my life. And that's the way I was raised. So I didn't know anything other than that, which led to me doing the things that I knew. So I ended up doing heroin. And from there, my first time doing heroin was with my mother and my sister. And that's what I thought was the norm. I thought that was good that I was going to do heroin with my mother. I wasn't out on the street doing heroin. I was with my mama. I wasn't doing nothing wrong. That's what I thought in my head. I didn't think that, you know, I have to give in my mother for the effect of it, the cause and the effect. But that's that trauma. Like, she didn't even know. She still doesn't know, because she's not informed about trauma and what happens when that happens. Okay. This is so hard. I don't want to cry.
Doing great.
Robyn, you made me cry. Drug treatment court. When I got in the drug treatment court, it changed my life. I like to call it a light switch, because the first time I got into drug treatment court, I wasn't ready. And then all of a sudden my light switch came on. It flicked up like, hey, it's time for you to start doing what you need to do. I was seeing everybody else prosper, and I was wondering what was wrong with me. I was wondering, like, Judge Triggiano, like, what am I not doing? I'm doing it, ain't I? Nope. She just used to, your hood is on your head, and, you know, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. We don't even have a UA for you. I used to be like, but I used to try to manipulate my way into it. And Judge Triggiano was not going. She did not want to hear me. She knew it. She could call me out for it. And she held me accountable. She was very stern. A judge that you need, but you knew that she cared. And everything that she did showed that she cared. At that point, case managers, nobody could tell me nothing. Like, it was just drug treatment court that helped me. I was a year into it almost before I was actually recognized for everything that I did or was doing or started to do, because Judge Triggiano made me start doing it because I wasn't ready. But sometimes it takes that little push. It takes a little push for you to get through that door. Your life switch may be on, but you need a little push just to keep going. I went to Neita house. I'm sorry, my son here. Come here.
Come say hi.
This is Corey, first boy of drug infant court.
Here's your Corey.
Say hey, Judge Triggiano. Hi. Yeah, go ahead. Can I open it for you? Okay. Thank you. Love you. Okay.
Adorable.
Yeah, he was the first. Okay, so let me tell you about Healthy Infant Court. Healthy Infant Court was not, I did not know I was even a part of it at first. I really didn't. But I was wondering why everybody was helping me so much and why everything was going the way it was. But they helped me, like Katie Trottier, Mariah, all of those guys helped me become a parent that was amazing, helped me recognize that I was able to make decisions in my child's life for the right reason. Rebecca Foley father is the judge that helped me, not help me, but I terminated my rights with one of my sons because I felt like I was away from him for a whole year of his life. I had missed a lot of things, but not only that, he was happy where he was. And I didn't want to take that from him. I was accomplished. I knew what he needed. And with that being said, me and that family, we do shared parenting. We are still a part of each other's lives every day. I still call them every day. They come over. We take pictures, we do family events together. Everything is still the same with that. It's like, it was amazing. Not only did I form a family with drug treatment court, I formed another adopted family. And I formed families that was healthy for me because obviously my real family wasn't. And I had to push that away. And now I know for myself that that's what I have to do. Sometimes I have to just reform families, and depend on myself. I didn't probably switch to a lot of subjects, y'all. I'm sorry. Not really good at this.
You're doing great.
I now work at Wellpoint, formerly known as St. A, formerly known as St. Amelia. St. Amelians, I used to actually be there. I used to, that's where everything started from. I was in Child Protective Service too, adopted family, not adopted, but I was in a lot of foster homes and moved around a lot. Group homes, St. Rose. I was everywhere around Milwaukee. But what at Wellpoint, I'm a parent partner, which is a new position. It was just created and they used me as the person. And I'm so grateful that they did, because now I am able to implement everything that I have learned through this process. And I want everybody to know that this process is not done being learned. I learn every day. Everything is new. Nothing is ever just set and formed like this is what's going to happen. This is how it has to happen. I could give you tools, but it's up to you to use them. And the only tools that I'm getting is the tools that I gained through drug treatment court, Neita house, all of those tools. Even with the Wellpoint tools, because I did a lot of classes there too. So I don't know what else to say, but if anybody else got any questions,
Jonisha, you did a great job. And what I would say is Jonisha didn't really know she was in healthy infant court because we hadn't really established it yet, but we knew what ingredients we wanted to go into it, and we knew the love of her baby was so, her brand new baby that she had during the treatment court process, family drug treatment court process. We knew she was going to be a fabulous mom if she just got the support and some of the tools that she needed to pull that off, right? And so there's a safe baby court model across the country that we decided we really wanted to put in place in family drug treatment court, which required us to bring in, like I said before, other experts in infant mental health people who understood, you know, the occurrence of what's happening in a baby's brain at any given time and how to support that child, that baby, to have a sturdier foundation, right? And the love between the first foster parent and the baby and Jonisha's love for her baby really worked wonders for that baby as well as Jonisha. And so we actually started the court. We named it later with the ingredients that we needed to make it successful. And so we always say she and her baby, Corey, were the first graduates of the Healthy Infant Court. And that, along with the wraparound model that we use for family drug treatment court, was the best combination, the best teamwork we could do for the start of that court, and Jonisha was fabulous. So you're right. We didn't tell you were in it because we were just trying to figure out how to do better by you and your baby. So, and it worked out, and now we've more formalized it and come up with our, you know, better process and procedures, but it worked really, really well. So go ahead.
I'm happy you used me. Thank you.
No, I like use the word used you, but we're part of the team. We're part of the team.
Can I say something real quick, please? Geraldine Welsh, I do know exactly who you are. I missed you. I knew you since I was 13 years old, and I can't believe you're on here right now. That's amazing.
There's a lot of names I think I recognize too, and I'm glad people are on here. Oh, there she is. Blowing kisses. Oh. Carolyn, you're on mute.
I miss you so much. I can't believe that you're here right now. And
I can't believe it either. I'm
so proud of you. Jonisha has been through so many things that we worked together for years, and we worked on things, and I learned from you and you learned from me. I just really miss you.
Oh.
And I'm so touched right now. These are tears of joy. I'm not, you know, I think about you often and I don't see it. You know, I feel blessed I'm here today, and I would love to keep in contact with you.
I would love to. I need to tell you, like, this is where my life ended up.
This is the best story from what you've experienced in your life. I couldn't, this is the best.
Happy ending with no ending yet.
What a great ending. So I apologize. I just had to reach out to you.
Thank you.
You're an inspiration.
Judge Triggiano, I'm wondering if we should take a little break and then we can come back and then maybe even open it up if we'd like, unless you have more.
No, I'm, you know, I can only say both of these two have been an inspiration to me as a judge in my career, and I know they will continue to touch lives as Robyn said, and I think one of the biggest piece about recovery and family drug treatment court is that giving back piece, you know, is so very powerful. And I think that's what we try to do when we come together, whether I'm teaching Robyn separately or Jonisha or us together. You know, it's our attempt to tell the story and to show, you know, sometimes court systems get it right and do right by people as well. So I appreciate being here and I appreciate their stories. And in fact, interestingly, I hear a different piece of their story every time they tell it, right? And I think that's the world of where they came from and where they are now. They, and Robyn's told me this before, you start remembering things and it becomes then part of your next part of your story. And it can be kind of scary too sometimes, but it's also can be very powerful in terms of their healing as well as telling the story to others to so that others can understand where their journey was. So, but
well,
we can
we can do it any way you'd like. I just thought I'd maybe give a moment for people to take a break, or we can go in with questions and answers right away, unless you have more information. Let me know. I'm good with anything. I just want to first say this is so fabulous. I was screaming on the other end of I just can't believe that reunion was so fantastic, and everyone did such a good job. So however you want to proceed is completely up to you.
I always ask my teammates here, Robyn, you want to just take questions or you want to take a break?
I could definitely use a break.
Okay.
Okie dokie. All right, we'll come back. You all change agents. Why don't we do 2:15? We'll come back.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll be right back too.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, Pam.
Hello.
Where are you?
I'm at home in my kitchen.
Oh, hello, Pam in her kitchen.
You're in your kitchen. And that was so, I mean, Geraldine is one of APC's employees. And so that story was so awesome.
I just feel like this year has been definitely a year of happy tears, lots of really good things, lots of good stories throughout this year. It was a really good year. I loved it.
And I've been in Judge Triggiano's family treatment court in terms of some of the clients that we serve, and it's totally amazing. I mean, it's just really amazing.
I am just so happy that they could come to the change agent meeting today. I'm thrilled about it. So, okay, well, we're back in 4 minutes.
Well,
How
and
is
to,
every- Go
and
ahead.
to tell their stories, I mean, it is, these are women, actually, all three of the women that are on have told significant stories. Judge Triggiano has had a journey as well. And Rebecca Foley, I don't know if you've ever met Rebecca.
I haven't met Rebecca, but I've
Oh
only
my
heard the
gosh.
most wonderful things.
She's like a force to be reckoned with. Yep, Rebecca Foley, she's a force to be reckoned with. And
Now
you
I
know,
want to meet her.
well, and we have, I employ the psychiatric nurses out at the juvenile detention center. So we're constantly looking out, you know, trying to look out for the youth and the women, you know, that go through that, through the juvenile detention center, and then they go into the adult, you know, center. So I don't know if Judge Triggiano actually remembers me.
I think so. From our drug treatment court?
From drug treatment court. I've been at drug treatment court before in terms of alternatives and psychological consultation.
Yes.
We have the nurses down in the juvenile detention center. We have, you know, partnered with drug treatment court before. We're part of wraparound. We definitely believe in wraparound services for young women, and our employee, Geraldine Walsh, is obviously very connected, you know, with one of your members. And so it's like an honor, truly an honor. We're all in this together.
Yep.
And it obviously takes a village. You know.
I agree. Thank you for the work you do too, Pam.
Thank you.
Well, I just want you all to know that you're doing a wonderful job. I could not, if I could have described or just visualized and shown you my vision of what I wanted today to be like, this is it. It's very perfect. Thank you so much. And also thank you for your vulnerability. I mean, seriously, telling your story is not easy. And so I understand that. And I want to just thank you both. You're both doing, and you're all three doing such a wonderful job for the change agents today.
Both change agents.
I'm sorry, what?
I said they both are change agents.
Yes, we're all change agents in one way or another. So I do have a question. Well, a couple different things. I do want to tell the change agents when they come back, and they'll start coming back now because it's 2:15. But we'll talk a little bit about how they can get their certificate of attendance. But then, do you have a preference? Do you want to open it up for the rest? You want to open it up? Okay. Would you like me to do that, or would you all like to do that?
You can. We're happy
Okay.
to have you.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Okay, so it's 2:15. We're just coming back from break. Welcome everybody back. I'll give you just a few more seconds. We are coming back for the second half of our change agent meeting. And I just wanted to let you know, if you're new here today, how you do get your certificate of attendance, because it's creative. So what we do is we put a link in the chat section, and that link is actually two things. The first part of it is going to be the survey for today's meeting, and you can answer a few different questions for us. And then you just follow the prompts to the second half of it, and it will be another link, and that will be your certificate of attendance. You can download it, you can save it, you can print it. If for whatever reason you can't get it, just shoot me an email, and I'll be sure you get your certificate of attendance. Okay, so I wanted you all to know that too. For the second half of this meeting, we're going to open it up, and you can come out, you can turn your camera on. I'll be manning the chat section. If you'd like to put something in the chat, I can go ahead and man that for you all. But if you'd like to put your speaker on and also your video, this is the time to do it, and you're welcome to do it. So we're going to open it up to some more conversation right now. If you'd like to do that, if someone would like to start. And like I said, I'll man the comments section, and you all know just how I feel about today's meeting, so I'll start there.
Thank you, Amy. You sound like one of those talk show hosts, right? You ready to?
You do?
Are
I
you?
do. I think it's this. I think it's the. I stole this from. It's a gamer thing from one of my daughter's systems.
You're funny.
Oh, by the way, Robyn, I have a 13-year-old too.
I say, even when your kids are in their 20s, as mine is, you never stop learning different things about being a mom.
That is a very true statement.
And my children are in their 30s, and I'm still learning from them too. So keep it coming.
That's right.
So,
and we all need to support each other.
From the chat, Mary's asking, is it a requirement for judges to be trained on the topics you are discussing, or would they have to do this with their own research?
So, great question. First, judges have to do 60 hours of continuing judicial education credit every 6 years, because we have 6-year terms. And those kinds of judicial educations can range anything from statutes in the law, specific procedural things to process. But we've also have a lot of training that judges can sign up for on sort of new and upcoming things in the legal field, which has included trauma and trauma-informed care. In fact, I've done presentations now twice at the judicial conference with Tim Grove on the impact of trauma on adult health, well-being, and behavior. And so some of this is getting out into the legal field. Neurosciences is another big topic that's sort of been going across the country, including Wisconsin, and we've had people from different walks of life teaching about brain science and how that impacts some of the things that happen in your courtroom, right? And so and then judges just, there's a lot of judges who are curious and do their own research like I did, and learned a lot about the ACE study, and then other things associated with that. So there are opportunities for judges to get trained in a variety of things that impact the legal system. And so, some are probably more likely to want to learn about sort of human behavior, and others are more likely want to learn about constitutional law. So it just depends. Being a treatment court judge is not for everyone. And many of my colleagues would say it's not for them. I would say that those judges who are treatment court judges probably find working in treatment courts one of the hardest jobs they've ever done in the court system, but one of the most rewarding. And difficult, I mean, is because you're not only got to follow what the law requires in any particular case, but you're learning all other things that impact human behavior. And so it's not for everyone, so to speak.
I'm just checking for noise right now. Everyone, if you're not speaking, just make sure you mute your microphones. I've lost my technical support. My dearest Gary has left me. And so I do have questions in the chat. So I'm going to...
I can't see the other chat. Are you the only one that can see the chat?
Are there other people that can see the chat, or is it just me? You can too? Okay.
I'm in the chat room, but I can't see him. But that's okay. You can just.
Okay. Yep. Let me just see. I want to go down.
We can all.
Okay. So very emotional with joy. We're both of the speakers at Neita House, and what was the experience? I have found that a lot of mothers do not get their children back, specifically in the Black community. Judge, how does this program assist?
I'm not. Can you repeat the question, Amy? I'm not
sure. Very emotional with joy. We're both speakers at Neita House, and what was the experience? I have found that a lot of mothers do not get their children back, specifically in the Black community. Judge, how does this program assist?
So the Family Drug Treatment Court is open to any parent whose child is removed from their care because of a substance use disorder as the main reason for the removal. Not every individual who has that criteria necessarily will apply, right? I think you probably, if you heard from Robyn, she applied, but she was just going to go through the ropes and thinks this was going to be easy, right? And then she was going to get out and be done with it. I can't remember, Jonisha, if you even remember whether you wanted to come in or not. She just wanted to tell everybody she did everything right and she should get her baby back, right? We have seen that people of more diverse backgrounds and color are more likely not to. So what we tried to do was get individual graduates to come and talk to parents who fit that description. So it wasn't us talking to them, to try to see if they could, say, hey, look, it's not easy, but it's worthwhile, and here's what we went through, right? So we've been trying to find ways to ensure that our participation is wide and deep and that we can get as many people in as we can, especially since substance use is one of the main culprits for the removal of children. Not everyone who gets in passes through the phases. There's different phases. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and a lot of people get stuck in phase 1 and just can't get out of there and end up not coming back. So phase 1 is really, really hard, right, Robyn and Jonisha? But we try to provide as much support as we can. And not to say that if you come into drug treatment court and you can't get through it or graduate or, that you can't get your child back. It's just that substance use disorders are very tricky and it's really hard, as they've mentioned, to try to get through all that to the point where you can get your children back in your care. I would also say that there's a team of people that look at the applications, and I was supposed to be the tiebreaker if there was, 2 against and 2 for, and I can tell you everybody on that committee really wants people to graduate or to get into drug treatment court. So we err on letting more people in than not. And then there's issues around right now too, how many people are there to work on this. I mean, everyone's got a labor shortage, right? So we're trying to figure all that out too. Robyn, Thoughts on it, Jonisha, thoughts? Robyn, you first?
I don't, yeah, so I don't really remember the phases or how long it took. I just know that it took me a good 8 months to even really buy into the program, but I continuously showed up. And so that's one thing I would share with the participants as a graduate would be, keep showing up, and hopefully eventually you gain the understanding that these people are for you, because most of us come in as like, we have that experience that, the law and CPS, they are against us. We're on separate sides of the fence. And so Family Drug Treatment Court has the mentality where we're working together, and it's hard to gain that trust. So it takes that time to buy in and understand what the program's all about. Yeah, and then I think that once you get going and you understand it and you see other people, and I think that was important too, that you mentioned that, was having that pair it up, with other people.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When did you graduate? Look at her showing off her swag.
This is just signed by you, Judge Triggiano.
It's signed by me. Nice.
Phase 1 and then phase 2. And then I don't know where my other stuff is. Somewhere.
Yeah, we do celebrations and graduates. And Amy, I hope I answered the person who asked the question. I think it's hard, and we certainly I spent a lot of time in termination of parental right cases where I thought that those parents whose rights were being terminated, if they had this opportunity on the front end, we would never get to that point. Not that it wasn't going to happen in some cases, but if we could do better on the front end, we wouldn't be seeing as many. And so our whole goal is to try to provide a alternative problem-solving approach to child welfare, where we could change that paradigm of the belief, that we were pulling kids and not giving people an opportunity to get their children back in their care, right?
Yeah.
I wish we could expand it more and more. The resources are certainly a problem related to that, but our outcomes for all families who come in are usually pretty decent.
Yeah. You do have more questions. I see some more have come up in the comment section. One is, wasn't Rebecca Foley working on having training about trauma for legal parties at Children's Court?
Yes, she did it. We started to do that early on. We would bring Tim in, we would bring other trainers in, and I think it's, as there's turnover in different systems, it's always good to do the trainings together. And so I know before the pandemic hit, they had been doing a lot of different kinds of trainings, and that was one that we always thought was really important to continue to do.
Okay. Another one is, how do you get someone involved in the treatment program? And is there inpatient treatment for mother and children involved in CPS?
Yes. So Rebecca does a magnificent job of looking at any kinds of. So what happens is the goal is to get anybody who has a child removed, right? We don't do it beforehand, although certainly some of what we do is preventative in the back end. Anybody whose child is removed because of a substance use disorder, and Rebecca goes through it, looks at every petition that comes in and finds the lawyers that are assigned to drug treatment court, and there's a full court press trying to get them to come in, right? Quite often it takes a couple times to do that because, as Robyn and Jonisha said, a lot of times they came to court, they were high, right? They weren't focused. All they were focused on, you took my baby and I want my baby back now, right? But those concerns, were certainly there. So we would try to ask them at different intervals if they would like to come into the treatment court. And we would get certainly some, and some would say absolutely not and never came in. And So trying to engage them on the front end. In fact, we even said, well, you know what, just come and visit drug treatment court. Don't sign up for it. Just come and sit for a day or two. See if it's for you. We tried all sorts of things to sell the program to people so that they would come in. And, you know, at any point in time when I was there, we had probably 30 to 40 participants. You'd lose some, you'd get some graduating, you get some to come in. It was always sort of that constant 40. So it was a good number of individuals. And I'm totally spacing the second half of that question.
Sorry, go back. That's okay. That's okay.
We engage people and.
Yep. Is there inpatient treatment for mother and children involved in CPS?
Yep. So Neita House is one of our inpatient treatment providers and residential, I would say. And I think that's what they're asking. Inpatient in a hospital, I think, is different, but Neita House would allow families to come in. And I think both of you had your children there at one point in time, right? I know Jonisha, you did. Robyn, did you?
I wasn't able to get my daughter back until I went out into the community, which was I needed that. So Gailey did visit me while I was in residential treatment there, though.
Yeah. There's waiting lists. I mean, we really try to work as best we can if somebody is in need of residential treatment to get them in. And, you know, the collaborations with everyone in drug treatment court was really helpful in doing that and finding out, you know, how we could do that better. But there's always those waiting lists, which is really, really a struggle. And then time limits, and we try to patch together more time. And Neita House would try to find, you know, some dollars out there to be able to support that. And then, you know, one of my, you know, Rebecca Foley and I would talk about this. Is like, I never really thought I'd have to become an expert in health insurance, right? What covers what and what doesn't? And I'm like, just put them in, right? Want them in. Well, they got this insurance and this one might kick in. And I'm like, oh my God. So we were trying to navigate that as well with many people on the team, right? For each individual, it was somewhat daunting on occasion.
Truly. You do have more questions. How do you handle the secondary trauma that all three of you may experience from the members you work with or individuals that may come in front of you at court?
Great question. And since I keep talking, I'm going to ask one of those two, and then I can certainly say what we're doing in the court system about secondary trauma.
I could answer that.
Jonisha?
I would have to say resilience. It's what helps me get through secondary trauma. And knowing that a person with lived experience, a parent with lived experience, I am able to know that it is light at the end of the tunnel. So since I've seen the light, I know it's light. I seen the light. I'm there at the light. I'm able to block out all the trauma that's going on and try to navigate my parent or whoever else into that light.
That's a great answer. Great job. Robyn, any?
Yeah, I've had some serious moments of secondary trauma, and I didn't realize what it was until it came on. And so in those moments, I process my feelings, and then I realize, especially when dealing with moms by us who do have we do have to just different things that come up for me personally, how hard it's been. And for me, it's been, staying in contact with my support. So, my outside support. I have an amazing supervisor who I can talk to about things. Just doing my own healing and therapy has been super helpful in processing those moments. And for me, it's about, I have to feel the feelings. And, even in the moment, if it's not the best time, I can compartmentalize it and say, hey, this is what's going on. There's a little red light kind of flashing and it's bringing up a lot of stuff. Put that to the side and, and move forward and deal with the person in front of me. And I'm human, and that's what I've gotten to learn, especially in the last few years, is that it's okay. I don't have to show up as a robot and do these tasks and help these people. I get to show up as a human, like Jonisha said, with lived experience, and hopefully use that to help the mom or the person in front of me.
Yeah, so they tell you as a judge when you first come in, you'll hear it. They'll say, you'll have that one case. So what do you do when you have 20 of those cases or 30? I think it's interesting. When we were preparing for this a little bit, Robyn was the first one who was asked me about my secondary trauma, right? People say, well, what do you do? You're hearing these cases all day, but they don't ask it as succinctly as she did. And, I think the first thing is education, right? Judges have no idea that what they may be experiencing is secondary trauma, or they're bringing their primary trauma to the table and it's impacting their ability to think and do things and judge, right? And so those red lights have to be identified as something like, so we've been doing a lot more education and training in the justice system about secondary trauma or primary trauma. And Tim's actually been helping us with that as well. In fact, Judge Ashley and I will be speaking to the Juvenile Law Clerk Conference coming up about secondary trauma in the justice system, not just judges, but our court reporters, our deputy court clerks, people who are in the courtroom, lawyers. So calling it what it is means you got to know what it is and identify it, right? And then I believe the only way I can answer this is like relationships really matter, right? Robyn just sort of teased that out a little bit, and so did Jonisha. Relationships, being in a relationship with healthy relationships, I should add that, right? Really, really matter, because if I'm feeling it, if I keep it inside, it's going to impact my day and how I might make decisions in cases, right? Need to be able to talk about it with somebody, and I'm starting to develop that process. How do I want to talk about what I'm feeling with my close family, my friends, my colleagues, and then actually get them to ultimately share, because it'll make it better for them as well. So it is a process. It's a learning process. And I think just developing those relationships is really, really key and important. Even now in the last 2 years when everybody's been, just struggling with the impact of COVID and everything else that came with it. So.
Okay, are you ready for another one?
Yep.
This one is for Robyn and Jonisha. What's the biggest lesson this process has taught you, and how do you apply this lesson to everyday life?
Robyn, I think she wants you.
I see. Many lessons. One of the biggest lessons would be nobody's journey is the same. So, when I'm in court with, in drug treatment court with a group of people, I can't compare myself. As I'm going through this journey, if I have a slip or, I have to go back level or whatever that looks like, I can't compare myself. This is my journey. And if I'm aware and I'm able to learn the lesson as where I'm at in this journey, then I get to grow, I get to heal, I get to be a part of my own process. And obviously that's still rings very true for me today is the same thing, and I talk to my, a lot of the women that I work with at Neita House is, we like to look outside ourselves a lot and try to compare ourselves and where other people are at. And it's for, I'm sure most of us, social media is huge. I was just talking to the women in a relationship group yesterday. And so it's having those moments of, and I think this has a lot to do with trauma as well, is going inward and having that self-care time and being able to really reflect on my own process and my own journey that helps me to be my best self and show up in the best way that I can. So it's kind of a lot of different answers, I guess, there.
Okay. What is the biggest lesson this process has taught you? That's a tough question. The biggest lesson is perseverance, as Robyn said. I think I'm echoing. Am I echoing? What I have learned through this process is that everybody goes through something. It may not be the same thing, but everybody goes through something. And it was for me to go through what I have been through for me to be the person that I am today. I felt like all the drug use, drug treatment court, everything is what led me up to be a parent partner. So I'm able to help other people navigate through this tough journey. So I feel like what this have taught me is that it's light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to happen. Everything is for a reason. That's what I think.
Great lesson.
Okay. Well, we have another question for Robyn and Jonisha. How could a society have helped you and your family when you were children?
I can go first. This is something I often think about. And actually, my sister and I talk about this. I remember when I was in elementary school, the guidance counselor brought me in and asked me what was going on at home. And I was the younger of me and my sister. And I needed to vent. I needed to talk about it. I needed to share. And so I was honest about my mom's drinking and the abuse and the things that were going on. And I had talked to my sister and she covered up and said, no, it's fine. And of course, I went home and got in big trouble for talking about it. And I got to continue to see the guidance counselor, but there was no further action in that sense. And so I guess, I think about what would have happened if CPS had gotten involved or a system had gotten involved in my story, how I would have changed as a child or what support I would have gained. And obviously there's, you can't go back and change it, but I think that in the sense of, listening to kids today, and that's, something I struggle with a little bit, is working with kids myself, just because it's hard, because what do you do when you get a child that's saying something, or you can tell there's something that's going on that you might not be able to see, or mom's not talking about. So I don't know exactly what the answer is. I think, like Judge Triggiano said before, it's kind of like educating, right? Continuously gaining that education in the sense of where you work and what you're doing. But I wish someone would have stepped in for my own well-being at that point. I don't know what that would have looked like, though.
And I feel like my story is a little different because I came from the CPS process. And as Geraldine, she's on here now, she was my mentor when I was 13. And it was really nothing that they could give me or do for me for my family to change the way they were. And it took for me to get older, get my kids taken away, to realize that that's not what I wanted for my life or for my children. So it was really nothing society could do. I had to do it myself. With drug treatment court, got to give it to y'all though, because y'all helped me form that. Got to give it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to double check the chat one more time. I do not see any more questions. If anybody wants to pop on for questions or comments now, that's fine. I'm going to pop in the certificate of attendance now. But once again, before we close today, I just wanted to say thank you so much to all three of you. It was such a fantastic, wonderful presentation, so emotional and raw and vulnerable. So thank you for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm going to put the certificate in. So now is your time. If you want to pop on camera, that's great.
I'm just going to say thank you, Robyn, and thank you, Jonisha, for coming on board. And I know, and sharing your stories. I'm so grateful that we're able to continue to work together. So thank you. You're the best.
Yeah, I just want to say been so inspired today. This is amazing, and Jonisha, I couldn't be more proud of you. Robyn, your story is very touching. It's as if I feel your pain, when you're talking. You're both so inspirational.
100%.
And Jonisha, I don't know how comfortable you feel, and maybe you and I we can share our numbers and talk in private, but are you okay sharing like how many children you have?
I have, I'm very comfortable, Geraldine. Especially with you. It's okay.
So where I was in the delivery room with, I think, number 3 or number 4. So number 3, Jonisha didn't have anybody. And so I went in the delivery room with her, and boy, was that a life experience. Wow. And it was very emotional and touching. But so, and then I know you had a son after that. And then did you have another son?
I actually had another son, and then I had twins, but one of the twins died, and that's a whole nother story in itself.
And both of them are fabulous mothers.
7 kids.
7. Okay. Maybe when we're done, we could share our phone numbers.
Well, and I just want all 3 of you to know too that in the comments section, I don't know if you're able to get it, but so nice. Lots of good kudos for you all. So if you have a moment to read through them, they're just such sweet little comments for you all.
Oh, now I see them. What did I hit before that I didn't?
Yeah, you gotta get the chat section going on there.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, this has been an awesome presentation, and I've learned a lot, and I think all of us have learned a lot from this, and we've got to move forward.
Yeah, I think we should also thank Amy. I sat with Amy, I think at a wedding, and we were trying to brainstorm what to do, and I knew right away I wanted those 2 with me, but you really been instrumental in bringing to MC3 a lot of these really impactful, heartfelt presentations. So thank you for your insight and ability to think about how to arrange these for the best presentation. So thanks.
Oh, thank you. I seriously cannot do it without the change agents. The change agents have the most fabulous ideas. They always come up with new ideas for these change agent meetings. And so I wish I could take all the credit, but I cannot. It is definitely the change agents that are changing the world here.
It takes a village.
It takes on. Well, a stadium at least, Pam, right?
Yeah, we have over 4,000 change agents now.
Well, actually, I was looking at the listserv, and since we've added the Niatex people to our change agent list, now we're up to like 7,000 people. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to tell.
There's a lot of change agents going on here.
And then my head goes to, well, you can't go into a stadium. You'll be too close to each other, and COVID's transmissible right now. Right? That's where my head's been for 2 years, is trying to navigate this pandemic.
Gonna put the certificate of attendance list in again. Somebody is saying they didn't get it. Lots of kudos, you guys. So if you have a moment, read these comments. They're so sweet. On my end, I don't know if you can hear that. It's going ding, ding, ding.
I hear it. I'm just trying to get my certificate.
Pam, if you need help, let me know. Just email like you do.
Because I normally aren't able to do it. Is that what you're saying?
What?
Are you saying